Welcome to Unapologetically Sensitive, where you can learn, relate, laugh, and maybe even live a bolder, brighter life. I'm your host, Patricia Young. This is a weekly podcast where we explore the strengths we have because of our sensitivity and some of the challenges it poses as well. The information in this podcast is not a substitute for help from a licensed mental health professional. Hey there. To the creatives, healers, sensitives, and deep thinkers, how the heck are you? We are mid-October now. I'm recording this the beginning of September, so there's a little bit of a delay. It's hot as heck in the room that I'm at, and I'm sweating, and I can't turn the fan on because it will interrupt the audio. So I'm suffering for you all. I have been avoiding recording. Well, that's not true. I've been waiting until I felt like I was calm enough to record this, and I wanted to give a little bit of time and space. And it's been a week, half a week. I think it's only been half a week. Tomorrow will be a week. Anyways, if you listen to the episode 265, When the Dog Stopped Saying Hi, The Human Need for Connection and Belonging, that came out on 9/16 about some challenges we were having in the neighborhood, this is a follow-up, and I believe it will be the final follow-up to this. I'm having all kinds of feelings about it, and I will talk to you about that, but let me give you a summary of what happened if you didn't listen to that episode. The letter that I wrote, an experience that one of my sons and I had when we were walking the dogs, and then a text that I received after that. So in our neighborhood, there's a group of people. We get together a couple times a year for potlucks. It's been really lovely. My husband golfed with one of the members. My husband took a trip with two of the members to another state. They did a lot of traveling for over a week. It really was a delightful connection that we had. My husband jokes a lot. His jokes are not always appropriate. However, if you tell him that they're not appropriate and he gets that message, he will totally change that. And after my husband went golfing with one of the people in this group, he got a text that was a very appropriate text saying, "Hey, you've been joking about this. This isn't okay. You've done this repeatedly. It affects people that I love. I need to take space." And I felt it was a very appropriate text. When I talked to my husband, he said this is the first time that he has heard that his joking has been offensive. Now, I will tell you, in this group of people, some of the jokes are not always appropriate, and my husband is not the only one that makes inappropriate jokes. The way that my husband was joking was a specific way of joking that is not okay. He understands that. He's not going to do that anymore. He is responsible for his behavior. However, he is not the only one that makes off-color jokes that are not appropriate, but at the time, that's just how everybody joked. So my husband was devastated by this, and as a result, I suggested that he seek out an LGBTQ counselor who would be willing to work through this with him. He did that, and we went through this sense of really this loss of community, not so much the people, but the sense of, what was going on, and we didn't really understand. These are people that walk by our house every day. We talk to them. The dogs play. We see them very, very frequently. I house sit one of their cats when they travel. I mean, it's a close-knit community. So this was a big change, and this involved 5 people, 3 households, 5 people. So some time went on. We just didn't know. And then I think what I'm going to do is just read you the letter because it kind of explains what happens. This was a few weeks later. So I sent this out. I actually typed it up and left it in the mailbox of each of these people's houses. I tried to text to one person and the text wouldn't go through. So I said, "I just want to clear some things up. I'm very unclear if Steve and I have been removed as members from the majority of the neighborhood group or not. It feels like we have been. Initially, when Steve got the text from," and what I'm going to do in here is I just put name redacted anytime I use somebody's name. When Steve got the text from name redacted calling him out on his comments, which was totally justified, and Steve has owned his behavior and apologized more than once. Do you know what? I need to stop for a second because there's another part of this that happened before this. There was a neighborhood get together after Steve received the initial text. We were invited to it, and then we got a text from another couple that said that Steve was not welcome in their home. That was hard, and the only way that that person would have known is if the person who sent Steve the original text shared that with him, which he has a right to do. So Steve was uninvited. Obviously, I didn't go. Back to the letter. Steve has owned his behavior, apologized more than once. This was the first time Steve recalls hearing this. I'm not saying that name redacted didn't say anything previously, but it did not register. Steve was gutted and took this very seriously. He wanted to give name redacted space, but he hoped that after time he would be able to speak with name redacted and hear how his behavior impacted name redacted, and to explain that he hadn't been blatantly ignoring name redacted's feedback about his comments. Y'all, I apologize because I'm just remembering other parts of the story. After I received the text that Steve was uninvited from this neighborhood gathering, Steve was gutted again. I mean, it was really hard on him. He and I crafted a text to everybody saying, again, he was very apologetic. He felt terrible. He's, really making strides. He hears that his words were hurtful. Could he meet with everybody to talk about it? Because at that point, I guess the point that I'm hanging on to is that from my husband's recollection, the only time that he heard that his joking was hurtful was the very last time, that text that, not very last time, but that text that he had received. I'm not saying that he may not have been given the information, but when you communicate, communication is a two-way process. There's a sender of the communication and a receiver. And if the sender doesn't send the communication or the receiver doesn't receive the information, it is not communication. I know my husband, and he would not have heard and received that information and continued to disregard it. Something may have been said, but it may not have registered that this was not okay. And to me, this is a very significant fact. Back to the letter. Then Steve was uninvited from Names Redacted get-together. Again, Steve wanted to hear how his language impacted them and to demonstrate how he was taking this to heart. When no one responded to his text, which nobody did, we went through grief and sadness because we felt we had lost a sense of belonging in what had felt like community. When my birthday wasn't acknowledged, which was like the following day after getting this text when Steve was uninvited, I usually receive a text from three of the people in there. Nobody reached out to me. This, coupled with the silence from Steve's text, I felt rejected. Steve and I did a lot of processing, but after feeling rejected, I interpreted the silence and lack of acknowledgement as rejection. I then felt angry, ambivalent, which is what some of you may have experienced when we have crossed paths. If this is the end of the relationship, Steve and I have both accepted that. For us, it felt like there was no space for human mistakes, no place for rupture and repair. We felt like you really don't know Steve and did not want to have a discussion with him. These are all our assumptions because we have no idea what you have heard, discussed, or believe. This has led us to question the depth of the friendships we have built with you over the years. Steve has owned his behavior and did not want to provide excuses when he reached out, that this was the first time that it registered that his words were hurtful and unkind. Additionally, Steve began seeing an LGBTQ therapist. Steve's words created unsafety for you and the people you love. Your people and silence have created unsafety in our relationship with you. There is no place to be human and make mistakes without being shunned. As I said initially, I'm very unclear where everyone stands. If I read the silence and interpret it as I have, then I have my answer. Both Steve and I can accept this. If we have not interpreted your silence correctly, then I would like to hear that. If you don't know what to say or you need time to process, sharing that is communication. I will assume that more silence means there is no room for discussion and we will continue to move forward. Prior to this incident, we deeply appreciated being part of a community and the sense of belonging it provided. We thank you for that. So that was my letter. About a week passed. One of my sons and I were walking the dogs, and what had happened previously is on the walks, I would encounter two of the people. And because of my perceived rejection, I just did not make eye contact. And I figured, why am I going to engage? Once I had a little bit more distance, what I wanted to do was to just be neutral to see what they would do. But my sense of being rejected was pretty high during this. My son and I were walking the dogs, and two of the people were across the street, and my son said he was going to wave at them, and he waved, they waved back, so I waved back. The next day I received this text from the same person who had sent the text to me uninviting Steve from the get-together. Patricia, in response to your letter, most people have heard Maya Angelou's advice, which is to believe someone when they tell you who they are, and we have done that. Steve's long-term continuing behavior is not something that someone simply apologizes for, and everyone moves on. It is good that Steve is in therapy. We just don't have the energy or interest in trying to continue any friendship. We also believe in staying away from people who act like victims in a problem they created. We have discussed this with names redacted, and it represents their opinion as well. Each of them may or may not communicate anything to you further. So, that is what's going on. I have a couple of things to say. I wrote the letter and I felt very good about it. I feel like I spoke my truth. I do wonder if, in the sense of white cis fragility, that what I said felt victim-y. And if it did, I don't know what else to do. That is pretty much the only concern that I have. And if I did that, I don't know what else I could have done. Intellectually, I get that when there's no room for rupture and repair, these are not the people that I want to be around. I think the two things that I've really struggled with are feeling rejected, my PDA, pervasive or persistent drive for autonomy, not being in control and feeling like I've been ousted from a group, the feeling of being misunderstood and not being seen. And I think this is my logical autistic brain, that if this was a pervasive, ongoing problem and Steve didn't know about it, then how valid is that? And without having had conversations with any of these people, and I'm not denying that my husband didn't make off-color jokes. That is not, that is a fact. Had he received that communication, he would have changed his behavior immediately. And I think that's the part that I find frustrating and I feel powerless over, and I feel hurt and angry about that. And so I've really been struggling with, intellectually, I know that this is fine. It's a good choice. I'm fine with it. But those aspects of feeling misunderstood and the not feeling like I'm in control have been very difficult for me. And I've just been allowing myself to have those feelings, and I'm going to have them as much as I need to. I feel like the looping has gotten so much better. I'm not having the obsessive thoughts that I was having. There's an amazing podcast called The Autistic Voice with Matt Lowry and Aaron Finley. I highly recommend you listen to it. And Matt talks about the shower being the argument simulator. And I do find that is often when, the looping behavior starts. It also happens when we walk the dogs, because that is when we are most likely to run into a couple other people. And it's not like I can just run into my house and retreat. So this has been a challenging situation. What's been really nice is one of my sons he's just so sweet. He's such a protector, and both kids and my daughter-in-law were down for Labor Day. We smoked some ribs and cooked some corn and asparagus, and I made some spicy cucumbers. It was just really lovely. But my son, who's a little on the spicy side, was like, I want to go down to so-and-so's house and knock on his door and blah, 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 blah. Can I do that? I'm like, no, you can't do that. But he's so fiercely protective. And the people that know us and love us have been incredibly supportive and shocked. And the words that our friends have used, it's like, this is like high school behavior. It's hard. And I think the thing that I've noticed the most is that this has activated friendship trauma in me. And I've been content, quiet, not as social as I usually am, and I'm content with that, but I definitely feel like my protective armor is up because this is just another reminder that sometimes relationships just end. There's no rhyme or reason. Not all friendships are made to last for forever. Sometimes it takes things like this to happen to flesh out people's values. And my values are we try and do rupture and repair work. If we can't, then it's okay. It's okay that relationships don't last forever. But the way that this ended just feels really crappy. And to not have a chance to talk it out again just feels really crappy to me. And if you listened, it's way back, but I had this happen in another relationship with therapists. And I think that I talked about this in episode 265, where I had just found a couple of other therapists and we were communicating and it just felt like the best thing in the world. And I said something that they felt was very hurtful to a person in the group. I didn't say it to that person, but I just kind of anticipated something happening and I named it, and they felt like I was judging, blaming, I don't know. And so I did get to communicate to each of the people, and they said that rupture and repair was not a possibility based on what I did. It happens. Is it painful? Yes. Is it trauma? Yes. Does it impact you in future relationships? Yes. Does it mean that you can't meet other people and have good relationships? No. But those traumas stay with us, and I want to validate that. And so I'm just allowing myself to feel a little bit more protected right now, a little bit more fragile, a little bit more vulnerable. And this is probably circling back to when, I think I talked to you about this on this podcast. On my other podcast, the newer one, Unapologetically AuDHD, with my colleague and friend Alex. Alex and I were talking about how long we've known each other, and it's been 2 years. And I was really surprised to see that it's been that long, because I am very open when I meet people, but internally it takes me a real long time to open up and to trust and to feel safe and secure. I will do the work of showing up, and if you don't know what's going on internally, I am very open and connected and vulnerable, but internally it really takes me a long time to warm up and trust people, justifiably so. If if we're looking at what we're talking about, it makes sense. I just want to give people permission that you have a right to speak up. You have a right to have a voice. Not all friendships and relationships last for forever. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. We can do the best that we can to do rupture and repair. It's okay to walk away from relationships. This is just messy. Life is messy. Friendships are messy. I don't know what else I can say about this to validate and normalize when it happens. People have a right to set boundaries. People have a right to walk away. And if that's how they do relationships, they have that right. The justice part of me feels like that's not fair. And things in life are not always fair. I think that that's all that I have to say about this situation. I'm going to try and fill up a little bit of time with some fluff. When I was in bed last night, I was thinking about something that I wanted to talk about, and I can't really remember what it was. It's been really nice. My son, who's married, and his wife were here for the last, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 6 days. And it is so easy and lovely having them around. The energy is great. I have a newer autistic therapist friend that I met who's much younger than I am. I'm thinking that maybe they're in their late 20s, early 30s. I'm not positive. And we did some body doubling the other day. And if you don't know what body doubling is, especially if you're ADHD autistic, we connect via Zoom because we're not in the same state. We meet up, we talk about what we want to work on. We each do our own work. It's like co-working. We decide when we want to reconnect. We set a timer and we keep our cameras on, either mute ourselves or not. We do our work. And then when the timer goes off, we connect back and say if we want to keep working. And it's a great way of using someone else's nervous system to regulate that co-regulation. I got a lot of stuff done. It was really nice. And then when we were done, I asked, did you want to visit for a little bit? And we did. This is a person I told you that I showed up to an autistic therapist group that I was ambivalent about. And this person was co-facilitating and we were the only ones there. And I had the most fulfilling connection. And I've been wanting to reach out to them, but because I had no expectations and it felt so wonderful connecting, I've been afraid of having that expectation and being disappointed. And this other person said that they wouldn't have had the nerve to ask if I had wanted to stay and chit chat. And I'm like, really? And they said, yeah, because of rejection. And then I shared my fear about reconnecting because of the expectations. And they said, yeah, those expectations are just so hard. And we talked. And one of the things I was talking about, because I was in a different space than where I normally am, when the kids come right now, I move into my bedroom. When the kids move in, they will move into the back bedroom. My husband will move into the office, and I probably shouldn't need to move into my bedroom when the kids are here, but that's just how we're doing it for right now. And as a side note, it's been really helpful for me to have a chance to kind of practice what it's like moving my stuff from one room to the other, practicing being in this room before my husband moves into this room. It's been good preparation for me. Many of us don't like change, especially when it comes to work and where my things are and getting set up and having to move things around. And it's been a good way to practice. It's helped me be more flexible and adaptable, which for me is always a positive thing. And this person said that a couple things. That first of all, they don't know that they would want to live with their parents. And I hadn't thought about it, that there are a lot of people. My son is 25. His wife, I think, is 23. And a lot of young people would not want to live with their parents. And we have just this beautiful relationship with our kids. And I really appreciate it. And this person also said that sometimes when they are in groups with women that are the same age as their mother, I'm probably older than their mother, that can be really challenging. And prior to getting on this call, in the morning, so in the face of all of this neighborhood stuff going on, there's a group of women that I often will meet for breakfast on Fridays. They play bocce ball in the morning. I don't, but I like to meet them for breakfast. And I woke up hungry and they don't go until about 10 o'clock. So I had texted, hey, are you guys going out to breakfast? Nobody responded. And somebody else who also joined said, where are you going? And then somebody responded where they were meeting. I generally prefer to eat outside when we go out to eat. And so I said, hey, are you all comfortable eating outside? If not, I'm fine. I won't join you, but just let me know. And then I didn't hear anything. And in this place that I'm feeling already sensitive, I've been rejected by this neighborhood group, my trauma is up. I knew that I was feeling disempowered. And actually, prior to this, in the morning, I had reached out to two friends because I thought probably meeting one-on-one with somebody would better fit my needs in this kind of fragile place that I'm in, tender. So I reached out to two friends. Neither were available for breakfast, but said that they were available for lunch. But I had already agreed to body double at lunchtime. And I had, the night before and in the morning, I had put a text out, hey, confirming that we're body doubling. Do we have a link? And I hadn't heard anything. So lots of uncertainty. And then this idea of, I could have gone out to lunch with two different people, and now I don't know if I'm body doubling. I don't know what's happening for breakfast. I'm hungry. I'm anticipating being rejected. All of these are not really great when you're having a trauma response. So I didn't hear anything from the breakfast people. I finally decided I'm just going to eat. And then I got a text that said, we have a place in the shade. And I just said, thanks so much. I'm eating. Just let that go. And when I was done eating, I was still in that place of, I gave up 2 dates for lunch. I don't know if we're meeting. So I reached out again. And then I got a response from this person that I'm telling you about that's younger than I am. And I just said, I'm having a little bit of a tough morning and I'm just needing some certainty. And I think that they thought certainty for me meant sending the Zoom link. So they said, I'll send you the Zoom link within 30 seconds. And I said, thank you. For me, certainty means just confirming that we're meeting and that we have a specific time. That's all I need. And they said, I'm so glad that you asked for what you wanted. So now we're on this Zoom call at the end and we're visiting. And when they were talking about the challenge that they have with their mother is the lack of communication. And they said, it's just refreshing and healing to deal with someone who is their mother's age, who is direct about communication and asks for what they want. And that's feeling like something that's healing for them, which I never would have thought of And I know that I needed some certainty because I was in that place of like, nothing's going to turn out today. And I had a full day plan. I didn't go out to breakfast. I spent time in, and I didn't go to, how we do that thing. And it ended up being a really positive experience. And so I think this idea of showing up and doing what we can do and being okay with the things that we can't do is also really okay. And then I had a really nice talk with my daughter-in-law last night because they were here and eventually they're going to be moving into the room in the back. And we talked about privacy. Unfortunately, the room in the back is a pass-through room. So there's no hallway and there's a door to get in and a door to get out. And that goes to the laundry room. And so my daughter-in-law, like is often in her room with the door closed. And I don't want to disturb her if she's in there, but I don't know if she's resting. I don't know if she's sleeping. I don't know if she needs time by herself. So I was saying, we're going to need to come up with a way to communicate because I also want you two to have privacy. And I said, I want you two to feel free when you're here that you can do whatever you want in that room. You don't have to have clothes on. You can do adult activities in that room. Like, I'm really fine with that. And I want you to feel like you've got safety and security, that we're not going to walk in on you and that you're adults and we expect you to do adult things in your room. And she just said how much she appreciated that. And she said she does have that sense of safety here. And, we talked about how our families are different and what we grew up with and what privacy looks like. And it just really was a lovely conversation. And she had also said that she was feeling bad because she was in the front room after we ate. And then she came out and saw me napping on my bed. And the whole weekend was just a quiet weekend. She wasn't feeling well. And it was validating to me because I judge myself when I need to go lay down and rest. I love being with the kids. Our kitchen is all tile. And when everybody's in there, it's loud. And I've been fighting off migraines. And I don't like asking people to keep their voices down. I do sometimes. I put in earplugs when we were in the kitchen and getting ready. And it just was nice. And then it was really nice on, I think, Saturday morning when the kids got up. I know they're adults, but we call them kids. I said, Steve, I need to go to Costco. And my daughter-in-law said, oh, can we come? And we did a bunch of errands together. We needed something else, a couple other things at Costco that we couldn't find at the first one. So on Sunday, we all went out again. And it just was really lovely. And I was talking to my son about it. And he's like, I love going to Costco. And I do too. I really enjoy it. I think I enjoy the visual experience. I can go in and get one thing. It's not about necessarily the buying or the spending. Although I have to say that I've gotten much better. I love The Grinch, and I also love the Netflix show Wednesday. And I think that that's my PDA part, that I love how they can just be contrary and say exactly what they're thinking, and it's dark and it's unpleasant. And I think my PDA loves that. So I've been slowly collecting Grinch things. And when we went to Costco the first day, they had a Grinch item for the holidays that I bought. And then when we went to Costco the next day, there was another Grinch item and I got it. And I normally don't allow myself to do those things. And so to allow myself to have the things that I want and that bring me joy just was really lovely. And it's just so interesting how I've talked about this before, that I judge myself for, like, I should be out biking, I should be kayaking, we should be out all day doing exploring. It's been uncomfortably hot here. And Costco makes me happy. Costco makes my kids happy. Napping makes me happy, and my kids nap. It's very normalizing and validating. And it really was a lovely weekend. And their energy is just so delightful. We cooked together. They made pancakes and eggs for us one night. And it's just really delightful. And I feel so blessed and so grateful. And it was nice that my other son was able to come down and hang out with us. And yeah, it really doesn't get much better than this. I think the last thing that I'm going to leave you with that I heard recently that was really helpful, and I wish I could remember where I heard it. I struggle with the concept of gratitude. I believe in being grateful, but I don't like being told to be grateful. And I heard somebody say, if you could imagine being 90 years old and looking back on this day from being 90 years old, what is it about this day that you would appreciate? And for some reason, this has really resonated for me, because today I'm able to get out of bed without much aches and pains, and that I can be physically active and One of my dogs just brings me so much joy, and we cuddle in the morning. And when I'm 90, it's pretty unlikely that I'm going to have this dog. And the relationships, having the kids in the house and being able to do the things that we're doing, it's really helping me appreciate what I have now from a perspective of the future. And how many times have you looked at a photograph from 10, 15, 20 years ago and thought there was something about yourself that you hated, but if you could go back to that time, you would really appreciate it? I think it's the same thing. And I try to think about those things, that the things that I'm unhappy with now, that how's that going to be when I'm 90? And to have a little bit more of appreciation for it. And for some reason, this doesn't activate my sense of PDA. And somehow this tool has really, really been helpful for me. And if it's something that helps for you too, I think that's great, because I really do think that every day there are things to be grateful for. That's not to say that the pain that we have, the anxiety, the fear, the doubt, the suffering, all of those things are also real. And I'm not in any way, this is the challenge that I have with gratitude. I'm not saying that we can't feel those things as well, but the both and, that how can I find gratitude even amidst, what's the word? Among all of the other things that are going on. I think that's all I have. If you are interested in working with me, you can reach out to me at unapologeticallysensitive.com. I have another podcast called Unapologetically AuDHD. If you are suspecting you might be autistic, you are self-identified, you've been diagnosed autistic, you know that you're neurodivergent, you struggle with communication, relationships, boundaries, parenting, OCD, these are some things that I have experienced, as you know, and I would love to work with you. I offer a free 20-minute consultation. Just reach out to me on my website. Please check your spam email. A lot of people reach out to me and I respond, and I don't hear back, and I don't know if they don't get my emails back. Anyways, remember, sensitivity is nothing to apologize for. It's how you're wired. You have a right to be authentically you. There is not such a thing as too much. You are just exactly the way that you are. Your brain is wired the way that you are. You have a right to be here. You have a right to take up space. I hope you have a blessed day.